Okay, hello everybody, my name is Einstein, or Conrad, and today is going to be a very different video to what you're usually expecting of my channel. Usually my channel is just Minecraft and other various games, me playing them and just being an idiot in them. Today I'm going to be doing a sort of review thing of a video game that I've been playing, if you've been following me on social media or anything. And it's also mentioned in Kevin that's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks, so look up for that. Cars come past at the worst times. Anyway, so I'm going to be discussing the video game Katawa Shoujo. And Katawa Shoujo, for those of you who don't know, Katawa Shoujo is this... Oh my god, so many cars are going past. Katawa Shoujo is this game about this guy called Hisai who encounters a heart attack after a girl called Iwanako confesses her love to him at the start of the game. He's in hospital for 4 months, leaves hospital and goes to this handicap school called Yamaku Academy that has these 5 main girls in it. Well, 6 if you include one of the routes that I'll mention later. Has these 5 main girls in it that you can go on the different routes of, and each of those routes you can get a good ending, a middle ending, and a bad ending. And there's another route with a guy called Kenji in it, who I'll come up to later on as well, who you can also go on if you don't want to go on the girls' routes. And I got into the game first from seeing it, I think it was 2 years ago, from Milbeeful's channel of his playthrough, which also got his channel taken down for a bit, which was because he let boobs onto YouTube, and YouTube's weird about that. And then my friend Ryan actually I don't want to say his full name. My friend Ryan, also known as Very Nice Ryron, got me back into the game because he said he was playing it through and that I should play it. So a month and a week ago, I played through the route, and I went through each character's route. And so in this video, I'm going to review the routes, say what was good about them, say what was bad about them, say my general opinion on the routes, and also put them into order of which one I like the most and which one I like the least, which will come at the end of the video, and any extra information. So before I begin, a couple of things I need to clarify. On my playthrough, I got the good routes for every girl. So I got the good route for Hanako, good route for Rin, good route for Shizune, good route for Lily, and the good route for Emi. This was just through my choices I made. I used a route master for 4 of the 5 girls to get onto their routes. The first route, I just went straight into it on my own. But for those routes, I used a route master to get into the specific routes. But I got a good route because I could have got bad routes or medium routes. And also, I have not played Kenji's route, because I see Kenji's route as a sort of jokey route that you play, and I'll be playing that with Ryan, and I may end up uploading that to my channel, but that is just a very sort of weird, sort of jokey route that I'll be doing in my free time, not as a serious sort of playthrough of enjoying the game, just as something to do in my spare time if I have nothing better to do. Okay, so the first route we get to is Hanako Ikizawa. And Hanako is my favourite character from the game. She was the first person's route I played, and for a brief overview, Hanako is a girl who has long purple hair, and she has burns down half of her body. And her parents died in the fire, she became an orphan. The only reason she survived is because her mum looked after her in the fire, and she's at Yamaku, and her only friends really are Lily, and Akira and Yuko, and I'll talk about Akira and Yuko later on, so she's an orphan. The good points about Hanako's route is Hanako's route was a great mix of happy and depressing. There was parts where you went shopping for Hanako's gifts, and you got the gifts, and it was nice and happy, seeing her reaction to them. And when she confessed her love to you over billiards at one point. There were some depressing points, like in the classroom scene where she was visiting and became very, very sad and ran away, or when you first meet her and she runs away from you, very scared, which is, yeah, as you can expect. That was a depressing part. It was very sort of mixed. It was a very equal mix of happy and depressing. And happy and depressing came at very sort of random times, so you were not expecting what was going to happen. Very enjoyable for having that very good game medium. The route also had a good backstory, because Hanako's backstory was very well explored. Hanako having been in a house fire, Hanako being an orphan because her parents had died in the house fire, her getting bullied in the orphanage that she went to, and that's why she's introverted and doesn't open up to other people. And Hanako generally just being very scared and timid of people, and also about how she's come to be friends with Lily and comes to be friends with other people. It was well developed as well, and Lily and Hanako are 2 of my favourite characters in the game. Hanako, definitely my favourite girl, just because she's an amazing character in the game. At the start of the game, she's very timid, very scared of you, and runs away, and by the end of the game, on the good route, she opens up to you, and it's adorable, and it's such an adorable route to play through, and yeah, that is a very good... Hanako's route is definitely my favourite route. Not so much for the story, because the story could have been longer. That was a bad point about it. The story could have been much longer. Well, it's not even that bad, it's just a sort of personal preference I would have had for it. If the route, because her route stops before you get to Tanabata, which is one of the festivals in the game, and every other girl, I think, goes past Tanabata. So I would have liked it to be a bit longer, but I can understand why they stopped it where they did. And another thing is, because the game has sex scenes in it, it has 18, well, X-rated, well, not X-rated, has sex scenes in it. Haneko's sex scene was very weird, but I guess that played into the substance of the game, because it was very sort of forced, and she was sort of doing it to try and keep you and not lose you, when really you don't understand each other very much, which is a very good game medium, but the sex scene seemed very weird to me. But it was kind of adorable in how they used their scars and how they used, because Hanako has the scars down her body, and Isao has a scar from the heart attack he had. So that's Hanako's route. Hanako, favourite character in the game. Route wasn't as good as some other routes that I'll mention, but definitely my favourite character in the game. And talking of routes, it brings me on to my least favourite route in the game, which was the route of Rin Tezuka. Rin is the character in the game that has the red auburn hair and no arms. She is a very distant, very confusing character when you first meet her, but also very sarcastic. She seems very sarcastic and jokey, which is why I originally liked the character. You went into her route, you went through the route. She became an artist under the leadership of her art teacher, Mr. Nomiya, and it all goes sort of pear-shaped from there, and it gets depressing. The good points I would say about it, because there are good points about every route. It makes you feel as Rin did, because the route makes you confused, bewildered, depressed, and angry, because it's a very, very sad route. Every other route, Hanako's, Lily's, Misha's, well, Misha/Shizune's, and Emi's, were all depressing at points, but they were uplifting. But with Rin's route, you constantly were confused, bewildered, and depressed, which is also a bad point. Because Rin's character also stayed consistent through the game. Like with Hanako's, she opened up at the end of the game. Lily, actually, I'll mention everything else about the others, but everyone else changed a bit during the route. But Rin stayed consistent, which could be seen as a bad thing considering she didn't change much, although she did change, but you still don't understand Rin much. So, bad points, one of them already touched upon. It was very depressing, very confusing, and angering. And at the end of the game, you didn't really feel like you'd succeeded and got onto the good route, because at the end of the game, you're stood in I think it's either daffodils or dandelion field. And you're stood there, and she's looking off in the sunset. But after all that you've been barraged with, that wasn't really enough to offset it, because you'd had all the depressing parts of the depressing sex scenes that it had, the depressing feelings Rin had, Mr. Nomiya, her art teacher, being really angry with her failing in her art career, all that sort of also that depressing. And then an uplifting bit at the end wasn't really that uplifting. It didn't really sort of lift you out of that depression, so you were below the line, you were closer to the line, but you're still below into the sad, sad part of it. Which I suppose does make you feel as Rin did, but I didn't really like Rin's character. Rin's character was too confusing for me. I didn't see the real sort of aspect of Rin's character as I did with every other character. Didn't really see what Rin's character was aiming for in it. Just my personal opinion. Feel free to disagree with me. I know there are people that disagree with me on /r/Katawa Shoujo and stuff. Which is one place also that has got me very sort of on the Katawa thing, because it's got a lot of fan art and stuff, but I'll get to that at the end. The one after Rin's route was the Shizune/Misha route. You'll see why I mean that in a second. A brief overview is you have this deaf girl, which is Shizune, with blue hair and glasses, and then you have her interpreter called Misha, who has this pink hair with big drills in her hair, which then cuts off midway through the game. They're trying to rope you into the student council. This route is a double character route, so it sort of explores Shizune and Misha. Shizune more so, but still explores Misha's side of the story and what Misha's doing. And if you do take a route, which I actually went back on a decision that got you onto this, but if you do go onto the route that goes onto Misha, you can do stuff with Misha, but it will give you the bad ending to the game. I found out afterwards. In the game, not only do you have Shizune and Misha, but you also have Shizune's dad, Jigoro, who is a massive cunt, and you have her little brother, Hideaki, who is a massive cunt. So her family is all sort of a bunch of massive cunts. Shizune's character I still didn't really like. I'll go straight to a bad point immediately, because I've said they're cunts. Shizune's character was very obnoxious. I mean, Misha's was obnoxious, but she was also sort of... I could connect with her. Whereas Shizune's character was still very obnoxious and sort of off-putting, because she was dominating, but too much so, which I didn't really enjoy. But some good points was it was a brilliant usage of the two characters, the way it went into Shizune's route, but also gave you sort of Misha's route as a sideline, if you wanted to go onto Misha's route and explore Misha's route, but also you could just have them both tangled into each other. This was the only route that explored homo and bisexuality, because not Lily, Misha says that she wanted Shizune to be her girlfriend, and Misha's a girl, so obviously that's lesbian. And it was the only route that did this. Every other route was simple, very sort of man and woman, apart from in Emi's route, which we'll get to later, the nurse did make some homosexual jokes about himself, which was not really exploring homosexuality, more seeing it as a joke, which is alright. It was funny. It was a funny usage of it, I will say. I'm not offended by it. One, because I'm not a homosexual, and two, because I didn't see it as anything to get offended by or get annoyed. That's not how you should treat homosexuality. It encompasses both Shizune and Shizune into one route, I've already said. Bad points, Shizune didn't really change much. She sort of stayed obnoxious and dominating through the route. She did change slightly to try and fix that, but at the end she was still very dominating. I saw her as dominating through the whole route. It ended a bit fairy tale-ish in the good route, because at the end you get to the gates of the Yamaku and you're all sort of saying goodbye and sort of everyone leaving. It's like, well, we'll see each other again, won't we? Yes, we will. And they jump in the air in a pose, and that's how it ends. Which wasn't... Because in Hanako's route, it wasn't fairy tale, and in Emi's route, it wasn't fairy tale, and in Rin's, it was just depressing. But in Shizune's route, it was a sort of fairy tale ending of like, we'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, la 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 la. So yeah, that was another aspect of it. What else was it? So yeah, that's that route. Shizune's route, I'd probably put 4th out of all the routes. Rin's is 5th, and Hanako's is 1st, and I'll tell you what Lily's and Emi's are when I get through to them. Because Shizune's route was it's a very good story, but the characters in it didn't appeal to me, because Shizune was sort of dominating, and Misha was, well, Misha. She was very sort of weird, and not someone I'd really connect with in that way. Then we get to Lily's route. Lily was the blind girl who was half Japanese and half Scottish, Lily Satao. She has blue eyes, she's blind, and she has a sister Akira, who is one of my favourite characters in the game. And so, good points about it. In Lily's route, it's sort of... You go through it feeling very sort of content with the route, and then it takes a lot of changes at a point. So, Lily can go back to England and leave you, and you don't feel very close with Lily. It's a very... And that's a very... that's a route... that is a sort of theme in each of the routes. In Hanako's, Lily, Shizune's, Emi's, and Rin's. You don't feel close to the person, and it sort of explores around that, and how you can go around it for the different girls. In Lily's, yeah, you you feel close, but then at the end you sort of drift apart, and then you get back together after a heart attack. In that route, it kept me on the toes, because I always felt wrong, because I always sort of foreshadow what's happening in the route. It's like, oh, it might do this. I'm not certain it's going to do this, but I have an idea it's going to do this. And then the route would suddenly take a turn, and I go, what? Like, I'm trying to think of a point in the game where I exactly did that. I thought Akira was going to say, well, oh yeah, Akira tells you in the game that Lily's going to make a decision, and I thought it was going to go one way, but instead it went a different way, and so that's sort of an example of it. Is very sort of, it makes you feel very sort of confused about what you're thinking is going to happen in the route. Akira is one of the best characters, and Lily's one of the best characters, both two very good characters, one with a chemistry, and also Akira is fucking hilarious. I keep calling her a he, but it's a she is a sister. But it's the only story out of all of them that explores having a second heart attack. Because in all the other ones, he has heart flutters, where his sort of heart goes and beats hard, but doesn't fully heart attack. In that one, when he's chasing after Lily at the end, he pushes himself so hard that he goes into a heart attack and almost dies again. So he's back in hospital. It's the only one that really explored that. Out of all the routes, I feel that Lily, and the Emi's one that comes up next, Lily had one of the best storylines to it. Lily's character may not have been as appealing to me as someone like Hanako, but the story of the route was amazing. If you put Hanako and Lily's route together, I would be so happy. It was definitely a good route, definitely a very good route. Any bad points? It was, again, like Shizune's, it was a very fairy tale ending at the end, because she could have easily, I think it's because I went on the good end instead of the, because I went on good ends, all of them, but sort of at the end, she's going to go to Scotland, and then you are almost dead in hospital. She comes to visit you, and you convince her, stay with me, and she stays with you. And it felt very sort of fairy tale, like, oh, so she changes her decision all for this one guy. Yeah, okay, fairy tale. Very sort of la 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 fantasy, which, okay, I get is enjoyable and it's a good theme, but it sort of felt very sort of flaky. People on Katawa Shoujo, /r/Katawa Shoujo, agreed, a lot of them said that when I posted Lily's route, right, when overviews, which will all be in the description, by the way. In the description will be links to each character's Reddit post that I made about them. Shizune's, I think, was very short. Anyway. And Lily didn't change much either, like Shizune. Lily sort of stayed the same. /r/Katawa Shoujo, I think, agrees with me here as well. Lily at the start was the same as Lily at the end. she didn't really change much. She sort of had that same air to her. She didn't have any sort of different air. Didn't open up. I guess there wasn't much opening up for her to do. Apart from she did stop worrying a little, but she did still worry. Hanako opened up. Rin opened up, I think. Yeah. So that's Lily's route. And then the final route I did, which I finished a couple of hours ago today, was Emi Ibarazaki. She's a girl who has no legs, and she is one of the stars of the track team. She's in fact the fastest person with her prosthetics on. The reason she lost her legs was in a car crash that also took her father's life. That happened 7 years ago near the start of the game, but then it gets to 8 years, which is one of the main substances of the game, at the end of the game when you visit her dad's grave. So she lost her legs in that car crash and lost her dad. That route was the only route I saw, this is a good point, one of the only routes where I enjoyed the Hisayo, because in all the other routes, Hisayo was very much a twat, just a massive idiot for what he was doing, is his inner monologue and thinking. And the one in Emi's route, although he did do that at one point, being very bitter and venomous, during the rest of the route, he was very much sort of the some aspects I see in myself, which is sort of witty, sarcastic, and into science. So it's the most appealing to me, and he started off being good, and then became someone I hated, then I pitied him, and then I hated him again. So it was the only route where I felt emotions for Hisayo. It was hilarious at some points, for some of the things I said. It was joked about it had dark humour in it, which I found hilarious. I love dark humour. It also had some jokes about Kenji, who I'll come up later. Some other jokes. It's just a very jokey route at points, although it was depressing as well. So it was like Hanako's, it was happy and depressing at good points, just this one was jokey and depressing, rather than Hanako's being happy, cheery, and depressing. Because, of course, Hanako wouldn't like dark humour. Emi's, this is a weird point to make, but definitely true. Emi's sex scene is the most hilarious out of all the sex scenes. Because in the routes, in Hanako's you have one sex scene, which is sort of weird, sort of, it feels forced upon, but it's not sex scene. In Rin's, the sex scenes, first one's depressing, the second one feels sort of out of place. Shizune's sex scenes, one of them she ties you to a chair, which was weird, and you can either have one with Misha where you have a sex scene with her, or the second one is you're in the student council room and you get it on. And in Lily's route, you do it on the floor, in the bath, and blindfolded. But in Emi's, the first one you do is you're doing it in Emi's room, and then Rin walks in midway through sex, and the second one is you go into the shed at the PE department, and you try and do anal in the shed, and it goes very, very badly, and it is fucking hilarious, seriously. I laugh so much. Emi was a very enjoyable character. She's probably in my top 3. I don't know if she's higher than Lily or not. I feel like she might be. I feel like it goes for me, Hanako, Emi, Lily. But it could be either way round for those two, because those two are both enjoyable characters. Hanako's definitely the top one, but those two can sort of swap around with second. And then Shizune's 4th and Rin's 5th. The bad points, I would say the story didn't have much substance, apart from her dad dying, because it's sort of all wavered around that, and that was very predictable as well, because I guessed that early on, that that's what happened, because it gives 2 pointers. The nurse says she was in a car crash, and Miko, Emi's mother in the game, says that her dad's no longer around. So it's very easy to put 2 and 2 together and say, well, her dad's not around, she's in a car crash, I assume her dad died in the car crash. But it doesn't explore that until much later on, so you're left going, dad died in car crash, dad died in car crash, dad died in car crash, and then she goes, my dad died in a car crash, and you go, oh, your dad died in a car crash, who knew? And, what else about it? So it was an expected ending for that. But Emi's route was very good. I did enjoy Emi's route. It didn't have as much of a story, but I liked it more for the Hisayo, Emi sort of integration aspect and how well they got on in it. So that's my overview for every route, and this video is currently going to be going on for 19 minutes. So I have, how long? I have 11 minutes to talk about the rest of the game, in extra details. So one of the main aspects in each route, which is something that sort of links every route together, is the girl that you meet at the start of the game that causes your heart attack, who is a girl called Iwanako. She writes a letter to you at Yamaku, sort of saying how she is and sort of trying to close off your relationship, so it definitely is over and final. In each route, I really enjoyed how it explored it differently in each route. In Hanako's one, you speak to Yuko, who is one of the characters in the game, about it. You speak to her about it and what to do with the letter. In Emi's, you're initially angry with the letter, and then later on you read the letter and that helps you form your ideas about what to do with Emi. In Lily, I think it's in Rin's route or Shizune's route, you write back to Iwanako and sort of say, hey, how you doing? This is what's happening here. This is how I'm doing. In Lily's route, you sort of disregard the letter. It doesn't really play much present in that. And in another one of the routes, you sort of are very hesitant of the letter. It's plays differently in each route, and that's what I like, because it sort of shows how different the Hisayo is in each route. Because the one in Haneko's route speaks to Yuko about it, whereas the one in Emi's route gets angry about it and goes at it himself, and one in another route writes back to it, so it sort of shows how different he's changed and how he's sort of evolved in the game. There's another thing I noticed, but before I get to this, I'll say this as a final sort of parting thing about this. But I want to mention other characters in the game and what they were like. So actually I'm going to pull up a quick, if I quickly Google characters in Katawa Shoujo, because I don't actually have this ready. This is unprepared of me. I wrote down some of them, but I was expecting myself to remember every character, and that is obviously impossible for me, because I am an idiot. Right, katawashoujo.com/characters. Okay, so there's the main characters there. Oh, it only shows... Okay, it's only showing 4 minor characters. I guess I can talk about these 4, and then I'll bring up any others from other people. So there's Kenji Setao, who is your sort of guy that's across the hall from you, and he appears in every route. He's also another constant in every route. And he is the nerd who believes there is a vast femicist conspiracy that is going to bring down men as we know it and destroy the world. And Kenji is sort of the 4chan of the story. He's very sort of hateful and very sort of socially awkward, as people see 4chan as being. And he, in the route, I saw him as trying to be a comedic presence in the game, but not very needed. I don't see much use for Kenji in the routes. Kenji was not really a character I enjoyed for that, because it seemed like someone they just put in for a bit of comedic stuff and a sort of jab and a poke at 4chan. It didn't feel much like a needed character. He didn't really give you much to think about in the game. I mean, in Shizune's route, he is seen as a friend, and he sort of is there through the whole route, but even then, he's just pointless, I see. All he does is just question the girls, and even then, if you're doing the route, you're not really going to be questioning the girls, because you've got your own ideas about them, and you're sort of, if you're going for the good ending, you're going to go for the girls, no matter what this raving, spectacled boy is saying. So, you know, I didn't really see Kenji as a very useful character. I didn't really like Kenji as a character. I mean, it's cool that he's in the game, it's cool that they have another character that you sort of share your dorm with, you can speak with one-on-one, but he was very pointless in my ideas. Next we have the nurse, who is the chief nurse of Yamaku, who is also Emi's friend in Emi's route. The nurse is one of my 4 favourite characters, I would say. My 4 favourite characters are Hanako, Akira, Emi, and the nurse. And the Akira I'll bring up after I've mentioned the ones that are written down on this website. The nurse is hilarious, because he jabs jokes, but is also serious at points, because he knows when to be serious and knows when to be jokey, which is very good. Really liked him as a character, so at points he'll crack a joke, and at points he'll be very serious about your heart condition, well, Hasayo's heart condition in the game. He's a very, very fun character. I really like the character, and also gave him an Irish accent when I was reading it out, so you know. Akio Mutao, I didn't even know his first name was Akio, that's weird. Mutao is your homeroom and science teacher of the class that Hasayo is in, that he shares with Shizune, Misha, and Hanako, since Rin is in a different class, Emi's in a different class, and Lily is in 3 too. Mutao is a very, very weird character. He's very distant, but he's a science teacher, and I'm a big fan of science, hence the name Answer Replica, and so I like him for that. Mutao was definitely a good character in the game, definitely a character I enjoyed being in the game. He did seem slightly pointless at points, but in some routes he did point you in the right direction, and also sort of in every route he gives you a helping hand into making more friends with like Misha and stuff. He points you into that direction, which is good. And also in some of the routes he'll help you with your college and university aspirations, which is very good. I've definitely liked Mutao's character. Yuko Shirakawa, didn't even know that was her surname. Yuko is the librarian at the school, and also a waitress, the head waitress at the Shanghai Cafe, which every character goes to in the game for refreshments. Yuko's character, again, like Kenji's, I'd see as being pointless in the game. Yuko's character was sort of a skittish comedy act character again, very sort of there, ha 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 ha. She does have to form some thought, so she's a bit more useful than Kenji. But with her, she is very much sort of, I saw her as a more comedic character than a proper sort of substance character. And another one there just for joking around. Although at points, she is helpful at some points, but really I didn't see much use to her. But I guess having Kenji and Yuko in the game was sort of adding sort of more extra characters into the thing, so sort of making it have more characters in the game. So I kind of applaud 4LS Studios for doing that, but, you know, Yuko again, not a character I really enjoyed. Okay, that's the end of that website. Akira Satao, who is Lily's sister. Akira is one of the greatest characters in the game. Seriously. She can't be my favourite girl from the game because the favourite girl line for Katawa Shoujo is one of the girls you can actually play a route of. But Akira is hilarious. She makes sex jokes, penis jokes, just childish jokes, and also her mannerisms are very, very funny. She's very sort of upfront and stuff. She's friends with Hanako and Lily as well, who are two of my favourite characters, and she's sort of very fun in that. One thing I will say about Yuko, if I go back to her, she's friends with Hanako and Lily, so I sort of like her for being that. But aside from that, she's pretty pointless. Akira is so funny. Then you have Hideaki and Jigoro, who are the... Hideaki is the little brother of Shizune, and Jigoro is the dad of Shizune, and I've already said they're both cunts, and they really are. The family, I guess it shows where Shizune gets her cuntishness from, but, yeah, they weren't even in the game. It's sort of showing, because other people didn't have their characters in the game. Talking of parents and family, Maiko Ibarazaki, Emi's mother in the game, very fun character. I liked her as a character. Sort of shows the connection that her and her daughter had, and the connection they both had to Emi's father, and also sort of slight promises they've made to each other, and the sort of interaction they have as mother and daughter, which I enjoyed in the game. Definitely enjoyable character. I think that's every important character. Apart from, final character I'll mention before I end up this video, because the video's at 26 minutes long so far. Nomiya, who is in Rin's route and is the art teacher, is the biggest prick. I hate Nomiya, seriously. Nomiya is the worst character, because he is just a cunt. I can get he's passionate about his art, and passionate about Rin being a good artist in her route, but seriously, holy fuck, I hate that character. Jesus Christ, seriously. I mean, wow. That's all I'm going to say about him. He's literally just a cunt. He pushes too far, and if you don't go far with him, he'll leave you behind. Prick. Okay, that's everything really about the game. One final thing I'll mention. Do I even need to mention this? There seems to be a small 4LS thing that 4LS put into the game. That Kenji, the nerd, and Yuka, the librarian, are some conspiracy romance thing that I think I noticed. Because in the end, in Lily's room, Kenji mentions a girlfriend that he had that was, that he sort of saw as weird, and they were dating for a while, and he liked her, and they sort of left each other. And he mentions about that when you're talking about Lily's relationship troubles. Yuko mentions he was dating a guy younger than her, who was very sort of weird, and he left one day without a trace, which would seem like a very Kenji thing to do. And in the game, in Emi's route, they're doing a sort of Yamaku cat burglar thing, where Kenji has stolen books from the library. One about cryptography is one that stood out, and Yuko is looking for a stolen book of cryptography and calling Kenji the Yamaku cat burglar, and those two are sort of going at it behind the scenes. It didn't seem like a very useful storyline, it seemed very pointless again. I guess it's a pointless storyline for pointless characters. Pointless romance for pointless characters as well. So that's the final thing I saw. So, that pretty much, unless I've forgotten anything, no I don't think I have, that rounds up my video on my review of Katawa Shoujo. I'll give a final rating for, well not rating, I'll put them into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for each girl. Hanako at the start is number 1 for her character. Number 2 is Emi for the Hisayo-Emi connections. Lily is number 3 for her storyline. Shizune/Mishu is number 4 for a storyline that is slightly behind Lily's. And number 5 is Rin's, because I just didn't like Rin's route. So that brings me to a 30-minute video, which is going to be a very long video for me just talking. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Links will be in the description to the Reddit posts I made on each of the girls. Some of them are short, some of them are long. But I would recommend, please just go ahead and play the game. I may have just spoiled it for you, but just play the game for yourself, because my overview still is not anywhere comparison to the amazing video game that is Katawa Shoujo. So, thank you all for watching. I've been Einstein Replica. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned to my channel, I guess. Yeah, goodbye.